Hello and welcome to Make Lunch at USBC. My name's Linda and we're going to show you today how to make chicken fajitas, which is in your recipe box this week. So before we start, as ever, I'm going to wash my hands in my hot soapy water here. And because we're using chicken today, it's really important that we do make sure that we wash our hands really well, both before we start and after we've handled any chicken. So I've washed my hands, that's good. The first thing we're going to do is, you'll have had tortillas in your pack today. We're just going to take some silver foil and I'm going to wrap these up, and I've got the oven just on low because they are just that little bit nicer when they're warm. So you can put them in the microwave for a few seconds, or you can just have them in an oven whilst you're preparing your dish. So you will have also got some chicken strips. This is chicken from the lovely butcher's Graham Burrows down on Hobley Drive, and I'm going to add my fajita spice. Now you only need to put in as much or as little as you want of this, and if you like it really spicy, then you could add just a drop of oil and leave it in the dish here for 15 or 20 minutes, put it back in the fridge and let all those flavours add into your chicken. I'm not personally a great spicy lover. I don't like things too hot because I like to taste the food that I'm eating, so rather than have everything just burn your mouth off, I like to be able to taste the flavour of the chicken. So we've mixed in the chicken there, and I'm just going to leave that in the fridge whilst I prepare the other ingredients. So the other basics, essentials for your fajita are some onion and some pepper. So I'm going to cut my red onion by taking the ends off here. And these are the sorts of things that the children can help you with, because they will love to be involved. And as we've spoken about before, the more you let them get involved and the choice that they have in how things are prepared and what they have to eat, the more likely they are to try new things and to eat the things that you have prepared. So traditionally the fajita will be cooked in one pan. If you're going to cook this for your children and you're not sure whether they're going to like all the flavours, it's perfectly possible to cook the onions first and then the peppers, and keep them separate so the children can choose what they put in their wraps. So as we've done before, we're going to make a nice flat surface. We want bigger pieces than we've used in the past, so rather than chopping it, we're just going to slice it. And again, it's about putting your knife with the point down first and keeping your fingers well out of the way and just slicing down through the onion. We've got red onion here today. You can use red or white. The red onions tend to be slightly softer flavour, and they certainly won't make your eyes water quite as much when you're peeling or chopping them. So put those through. This is another great dish if you've got things to use up and you want to use those veg from the bottom of your fridge, and you can incorporate carrots or courgettes, or anything that you think that the children might like and is a little bit of fun inside. So I've got two peppers here. I'm going to use a little bit of both. They are both sweet peppers, and you can see they're very different shapes, but we prepare them in just the same way. So this red one I'm going to cut down the middle ish, and you'll see that the seeds and the core are inside. So we want to very carefully cut around the stalk end, and that will come out quite easily like that. And then you also want to get rid of the white pieces with the seeds as well, because they can be bitter. So we'll just take those bits out, making sure that you keep your knife well away from little fingers, and then we can just knock the seeds out so that they've all gone, and we won't be needing those. Put those out of the way, and you have to bear in mind how big your tortilla wraps are. So this is far too long, so I'm actually going to cut mine this way, and then we've got a nice size then to go into the tortilla, and I'm just pushing it down. I'm cutting through the inside first because that is actually softer, and then you'll be able to get through to the pepper skin at the other side, especially if your knives maybe not quite just as sharp as mine. So I'm only cutting and doing a really small portion here today just to show you what to do, and you can just cut the cheek off if you've got a bigger pepper and keep that intact. That will help keep it a little bit moist if you cover it over. And again, I'm just going to trim that little bit of white out there to make sure there's no bitterness in there, and I'm going to cut this slightly on the angle to keep those pieces nice and short so that they'll go into the wrap nicely. So we've got lots of beautiful colour in here, and you imagine if you put some courgette ribbon or some chopped carrot in here and make that into long thin battens as well, that would look absolutely delicious. So I'm going to cook mine all together, but as I said, you can do this in separate goes, keep it warm while you fry off the rest, and then the children can choose what to put into their individual wraps. So I'm going to put a drop of oil, which you should still have left, into my pan and warm that up. Now I'll get my chicken out from the fridge, and as you saw, I stirred mine round with a spoon, which meant I hadn't come into contact with the chicken itself, because although chicken is extraordinarily safe now, it still can be prone to having bacteria on it, and you don't want to be spreading that all around the kitchen. So make sure if the children are touching the chicken by rubbing the spices into it, that they do wash their hands thoroughly. So the chicken's going to be the first thing to go in, and because it's cut into strips and we're not trying to cook a whole piece of chicken, this really will just take a matter of minutes to cook. So I shall get my spoon, and again, you want your oil to be hot without it smoking. If it's smoking, that's going to really singe the meat that you put in there, and that will quite often lead to the outside being cooked way before the inside bits are cooked. So that's the last thing you want to happen, especially with chicken. So that's just beginning to get hot now. I'm going to put my chicken into the pan. And you can hear it gently sizzling. It's not going off and any great taste. So as you can see, here's my chicken. It's very almost cooked, and it stayed nice and moist in the pan. So while that pan's hot, we're going to add in the onions and the peppers, and they can be cooking alongside the chicken, so all that flavour can go into the pan and cook through as well. So as I said, you can use other vegetables, whether they are carrots or maybe some courgette ribbons. For cooking carrots and courgettes, if you want them all to cook at the same time, then a really good idea is to slice them with a vegetable peeler. And if you slice down the whole length of the carrot or down the length of the courgette, you'll get some nice ribbons, and that will keep them at the same sort of thickness as we've got for the peppers and the onions, and in that way everything will come together and cook at the same time. If you're going to separate all your vegetables, then it doesn't matter so much, because you can just cook the things that are the same thickness together and then arrange them on a plate separately. But I think this is a really good way, once the children have chopped the vegetables themselves, to encourage them to try new things, and because it's so colourful, I think they will really enjoy making these for their tea together. So that's going to just take another minute or so. So I'm going to clear this away. It's always good practice to keep your working area clean. If you're wondering why it looks like I'm cooking in a cupboard, next week when we do our last demonstration, I'll let you into a secret of where we're filming. So we're going to get our fajitas ready now for making. So I'm going to get my wraps out of the oven. They've only been in on a very low heat just to warm through, because it makes them that much more interesting when they're done. And so here are my tortillas, and with the onions and the peppers in the pan, you really don't want to overcook them. And as you can see here now, they're quite shiny, but they're cooked through, and that's as much as they will need. So I'm just going to leave this over here so that we can dish up. Gosh, frying is quite noisy, isn't it? So you can see our pretty colours here, the red and the yellow and the red onion in there as well with the chicken. So these are all quite traditional things to do, but you can make them just how you like them. We've got some sour cream, which I hope will be in your pots. If you don't have sour cream, you can use natural yogurt, or even mayonnaise if that's what your children would prefer. So some ideas about how you construct your wraps now. So the first thing I'm going to do is to put some sour cream on, and the joy of these dishes is you don't need much of anything. So we're going to put some sour cream on. One of the other reasons for putting cream or yogurt in a wrap is because if they are spicy, then the cream or yogurt is a really good way of softening the heat from the spices. So if it's a bit hot and spicy for any of the children, then this is a good way of cooling it down, making it a little milder on the palate. So I'm going to take my bits of chicken and some onion and a bit of pepper, and you can see that just a little goes an awfully long way, which is lovely. And then the other thing you'll have in your box is some cheese. If you grate that down and put it on top, that melts in with the chicken and is absolutely scrummy. So how do you wrap your tortillas? I'm going to do this one in quite a traditional way, because I'm going to show you a tip that I learnt a little while ago, which just lifts this dish beautifully. So I'm going to turn the ends in and then take this end and roll it this way until you get a seal on the bottom. Now that's a lovely portion size for your children, and as you can see, some of the cream is already squidging out of there, but that's absolutely fine, that doesn't matter. So what I'm going to do now is I put the frying pan back onto heat. It's just got the oil that we use to cook the vegetables and the chicken in, and I'm going to put the wrap back into the frying pan just for literally 30-40 seconds on either side. And what that does is it seals the wrap, and it picks up all the juices from the saucepan, from the frying pan, and that will just make that into some crispy loveliness, which will be absolutely delicious. So how else could we do our wraps? Some children just manage to fold them in half. That's absolutely fine. You can, let me just fill this one for you, and we'll have a go at how we might do some others. I won't bother with the cream, but you can put your filling going in the other direction, like this. Should have had spoons and not forks, but there you go. You can do that and then fold it in half, and then in half again, and that way you get a layer all the way through the wrap, which is great. The alternative way, let me just turn this wrap over. There we go. would be to make it, especially, and this is great if you want a handheld tea one night, we just fold it over, fold it again, and then just prise one of the corners out and you've got a ready-made pocket, and then you can fill your wrap with vegetables and chicken and goodness, and you can still put your sour cream or your cheese on the top as well, and then you've got a ready-made handheld pocket. Now if you want some other ideas for tortillas, then I think my favourite has to be a fish finger wrap. If you cook fish fingers, stick them in the pocket with some red sauce or whatever, that makes a really filling tea. Another alternative is, if you don't have any tortillas, is to maybe use an iceberg lettuce leaf, and you can do exactly the same thing, prepare it in the same way, and then just roll up the lettuce leaf and use that as a wrap instead. So here we have our tortilla, and as you can see, it's just got a nice crispy base and it's done and nice and toasty. And then if I cut this open, you'll see that it just makes a really nice dish. It's a little warm, so just be careful when the little ones are eating it, but that's my take on chicken fajitas. So I hope you enjoy your food parcels this week, and I hope that you get some interest with your children to help you with some cooking, and I hope that you have a really good week, and that we haven't had too much rain since I spoke to you last, and that you have a lovely time with your families. So do take care, stay safe, and God bless. Bye bye.